a very warm welcome to all of you. I know that you're sitting various different places in Europe, so it's really nice to have you on board for this morning meeting. Before I start, my name is Mads Olan Andersen, and I'm a project manager in Gate 21. You could also see the logo here in the back. And here in Gate 21, we work from Copenhagen with the green transition, helping accelerate sustainability efforts across different sectors and within different themes. But today, now I will just share my screen. Again, if you want to, please have your camera turned on for me to see all of you. So I'm not just talking to an empty space. That would be really nice. Of course, that's voluntary. But I will share my screen now. And please let me know if you can't hear my voice or see me or anything is. Then I have two great people here helping me with all the technical stuff. So let me know with a thumbs up if you can see my screen now. Perfect. So welcome to this webinar on how to use sprint formats to develop and test reuse systems, especially for food packaging and food delivery. This project and this webinar is funded by Interreg and is a part of the Change Now project regarding the development and tests and piloting of new reuse systems for food delivery. So I know a lot of the Danish people are sitting here. I can see Bent has some products already there, so that's nice. So you already started. Again, my name is Mads Olan Andersen. I'm project manager here at the Gate 21 and a strategic designer, meaning that I've been a part of developing this methodology that I'm going to talk about today. And also helping the partners in the project use this for developing their pilot and also testing these new reuse systems across the different countries. But first, I would like for you to write in the chat where you come from, just for me to see who we are today. So please just write in the chat. We have Yanis from Latvia or Lavia? Latvia, perfect. Welcome. And from Lahti, Johanna from Lahti, from Finland. Great. And Copenhagen, my colleague Anne. Finland as well is highly represented. That's good. Frederiksberg, that's close by here. Tallinn, welcome. Piret. At Helsinki as well, Finland. So good to see you. And Copenhagen again. Perfect. Welcome you all to this webinar. And we have Roberto from Lithuania as well. Before we start, some quick house rules for today's webinar. I think after Corona, this is maybe more, a second nature than before. But please mute your microphone during this presentation, so we only hear my voice for now. And afterwards, use the chat for questions. Along the way, we will gather all the great questions and follow up after the presentation and try to answer as many as we can. The slides will be shared afterwards, so you can get them, and as well as links for other materials. And then, of course, I need to mention that the webinar will be recorded and shared, so more people can get something out of it. But first, before we start, I want to ask this question, because I know there's a lot of difference between how much experience you have with the sprint method. So what is the first thing that pops into your head when you hear the word sprint? So scan this QR code and write your question in the Mentimeter, and then we can see the different words popping up here. I will give you 1 or 2 minutes to do so. Innovation, running. So the sprint is about running something fastly paced. IT maybe, yeah. That's a lot of good input. So that's where you're at, to run, yeah. So it's something about movement, something quick, something fast, maybe something adjustable, agile. Yeah, great. Testing, yeah, that's also a good one that we're going to talk about that later on as well. So that's a big part of the sprint method. Developing, of course, teamwork is also quite essential. That's right on point. Perfect. Involvement is also a key factor here when we talk about sprint methods. Perfect. Ideation as well. So let's get started. Before we dive into the sprint method, I want to just quickly make a definition on when we talk about reuse system, we talk about packaging reuse that refers broadly to delivery models in which single package achieves multiple trips, rotations, or uses for the same purpose for which it was originally used. So this is Ellen MacArthur Foundation who made this report from single use to reuse that has this definition. So we are all on the same page. And what that imposes is that we have a lot of challenges. This is not a simple task to implement and deliver a reuse system for food packaging, because it requires an entirely new logistics and also a shift in user behavior. And for these systems to be sustainable, it highly depends on utilization and consistent return of packaging. And for that to succeed, we also need a large and accessible system where multiple stakeholders are involved in the action and not just users. So when we talk about implementing and developing reuse system, we talk about a wicked problem or wicked problems, which means that we have a complex issue that has doesn't have one solution, and requires thorough work in order for us both to understand the problem but also to deliver concrete solutions. And that is where the sprint method comes in handy, because the sprint approach provides this structured and collaborative process that systematically breaks down complex challenges. It also aligns stakeholders around real user needs. That means you are not going to develop on your own. And it also rapidly explores and tests ideas. Also, some of you mentioned this development, fast-paced, and convert insights from these tests into a validated and actionable solution that you can implement as an output of this method. In this project, I know there's a lot of different ways of talking about design sprints, but in this project, we have developed these 5 key factors that is sort of essential when we talk about sprints. And after this, I will dive into each of them. But in order for you to understand, this is also an iterative process, meaning that you can do as many rounds in this circle as possible. But starting with understanding the challenge, going to define the focus of this initiative, develop ideas, choosing ideas, and build concrete prototypes that is testable for piloting. And in the center, of course, here is the user, the people, both using this new packaging, but also all the actors around the solution that I mentioned before. So the first phase that we are going to talk about here is to understand the challenge. So when we talk about these wicked problems, it is fundamental and essential that we understand the challenge in depth. And we can do that by addressing and mapping the system in order for us to identify the key stakeholders that are in place or should be in place for this new reuse system to be successful. And the first thing that we are going to do in this phase is to know who is the system for, but also who will be involved. And a great way of dealing with this is to map out the different actor groups that could potentially be a part of this new system. It could, for example, be a municipality, a user, of course, but also operators. But in order for us to understand this complex actual landscape, we need to map out this first. And this is for our own team, development team, that we do that in the first place in order for us to understand both incentives, roles, maybe also what they can provide and contribute with, but also sort of the barriers for them to participate. And when we've done that, we take that knowledge and we take that input, and then we go talk to people. We go out in the real world and in order for us to get to know all the stakeholders. And this can be done by interviews, conversations, maybe even observations. But in order for us to validate the assumption that we did when mapping the actors, we need to know them in order for us to know what is their point of view and perspectives on this challenge. And we also use that to be more precise on who are we going to involve in the next phase. But before going into that, I just want to have a quote from Johanna. I think, Johanna, you are also here today, so that's really nice. That this stakeholder mapping helped them to build a shared understanding, both on the system, but highly also on identifying where change is possible. So this is also something that this method could be used for. Where do we have leverage? And they identified the key actors, their roles, drivers, barriers, but also their needs. So in order for them to understand the actor landscape, they they use this method to gain that insight. So now we understand the issue a little better. We understand the people that should be a part of this system or could be a part of this system. Now it's phase 2 where we invite the chosen stakeholders in. So this could be operators, it could be stall owners, it could be producers of these new cups or bowls. But we invite people in that has a role to play in the new reuse system. And we do that to create a clear focus, but also to identify the most critical barriers and uncertainties for us to be able to align on what this development should address. And as I mentioned in the beginning, these systems are highly complex. So what we do in the sprint method is to visualize it together with the different actors. And here is just a very, very simple illustration of how this mapping could look like. But what you do is simply mapping all the different steps that this new cup, for example, is going to take within this reuse system. So from purchasing, a customer is purchasing this cup, using it, drinking their coffee, and returning it to the vending machine, which goes into the washing facility that is then transported back to the restaurant and ready to the next purchase. So by doing this, we are actually able to pinpoint all the different connections between both, of course, physical places, but also all the different actors' roles in these different steps. So what you do here is to get a better overview together with the actors of how might the new reuse system look like and what are the connections. And what that does is that it highlights where are the obstacles and where are the uncertainties, the things that we don't know yet. So we use it as a lens and an analysis for us to be more precise on what are we going to solve with this new reuse system. What do we need to test? What do we need to get more knowledge about? Again, here I have another great example from one of the project partners, Fritjof Vogelsang from Green Events Hamburg, that says during these workshops, it became clear that the return of reusable containers causes problems for stall operators during peak times. And testing and return machine was identified as a potential solution and was afterwards selected as a pilot project. So this highlights that through this exercise, it actually became clear that we had an issue that we needed to solve within these return of the reusable containers. So how did we do that? We provided a concrete solution that we could test. So Fritjof actually used this method to highlight this issue that needed to be solved. So now we have a better idea of the system that we want to put in place, but we also have a lot of uncertainties and challenges that we didn't actually get a solution for yet. So what we need to do in phase 3 is to develop ideas. Again, together with stakeholders, we generate these ideas, and we do that together with people because we need new perspectives, different perspectives than our own, different expertise, different point of views. And of course, ideation can be done in many different ways. I will not go too much into depth with this, but I just mentioned that the way we handle this is that we, in the sprint method, go from all the different uncertainties and pain points, challenges, and try to look at how can we solve this? What are the different solutions? For example, a vending machine, like in Fritjof's case, how can we solve these? Or at least how can we get knowledge about the uncertainties that will help us solve it? And the final part from this phase is to pick one idea and to go to the next phase with this idea and try to develop it further. Eve Jill from Ökomarkt Hamburg has done this together with the stakeholders. They developed different initiatives, but they discussed when and how the implementation can take place to secure a successful implementation. And they developed informative initiatives, for example, school information booths and educational units with the environmental club. And I brought this quote because it highlights that interventions or solutions could be many different things. So here it's mostly about information. They wanted to provide information to the students because maybe they had an assumption that they needed that in order for them to use the system. So they provided different ways of dealing with this information barrier. So now we have made a lot of great ideas. We picked one, maybe a few, and now it's time to build a prototype that we can actually test in real life. So this is a tangible representation of the new reuse system. I brought this picture because a prototype, it all could mean many things, but it is something that tells more about the concept of the idea. So what we aim to do in this phase is to dig a little deeper. We actually go back to the problem. We have an idea, but we need to understand the problem a little better. So the first steps when we conceptualize a new prototype is to unfold the problem. What is the problem? We could ask ourselves, why does it matter? Why is it a problem? But also, who is it a problem for? So in order for us to make a prototype, we need to understand the problem a little better. And when we've done that, we unfold the solution. So describing what is the solution, what are the details, how does it work, why will it work, and who is involved in making this solution a reality. And then, of course, this last step is about realizing the solution. What important steps needs to be taken in order for us to implement this solution and eventually test it. So it's more of a planning exercise in the last one here, but it's highly important that we dig into that, because otherwise we are not able to put it into reality and get some input and feedback. And here we have a quote from Maciej, who is a co-founder at Event Loop Tech in Gdansk, that tells us that the process helped them clearly distinguish between different types of system models, such as deposit-based systems or customer-owned containers. So instead of mixing these approaches, we were able to see them as separate directions with different implications. And the point here is you could actually have different prototypes and different ways of dealing with different issues in place at the same time. And what this approach helps us do is to distinguish between these different kind of prototypes and also see the implications of these implementations. So it's also a way of developing an understanding of what we are going to test in different areas. And then the last but not least phase 5, testing and piloting in this case. So we now have a concept. We know what the problem that is supposed to solve is. We know how it will work, who it will work for, and we also know how to put it in place and which actors should be invited into to actually implementing this solution. So now the job is to make a test setup where users and stakeholders can give feedback on the test. So we put it into reality. This picture shows it perfectly. This is a prototype on a washing facility. It's a prototype of the the work capacity that is needed in order for them to clean it, dry it. So this is actually a test of a concrete solution on the washing facility. But in order for us to prepare the solution for this test, there is some key steps that we need to take to be ready. The first thing is to define the aim of the test. So what do you want to test? But also how you plan to generate insights from this test. What is it that you want to answer with this test? And that's going all the way back to what are the problem that you need to solve? What are the uncertainty that you need to answer? So what are you going to answer with this test? And the next thing is to make a plan. So this involves defining roles, communication channels, risk, in order for us to ensure a well-prepared test. And we actually encourage people to do that together with all the different actors as well. Maybe make a draft before, but actually get people on board in this planning as well, because it's highly relevant that this is anchored within their expertise. And then, of course, the last bit, and not least, gather insights. Plan the review cycles to capture insights, because this is not done one time off. It's actually helpful to continue and go out and capture insights. This is also to do with this iterative process where we continuously refine the prototype, and from the insights that we get, and in doing that, we actually get a better and better solution over time. So don't be afraid to show something and test something that is not completely finished yet, because it helps you get a lot of important insights. And here we again have a good quote from Eve Gill from Økomarkt, Hamburg. They tested reusable cups and balls in the school canteens during a period of about 1 to 2 months. And an educational unit with pupils was tested in one school to gather important feedback concerning the implementation of reusable cups. And we also collected online surveys from pupils during an information booth that we see here also in the picture. And this is to tell that there's a lot of way to test and a lot of way to gather insights. It could be both through interviews, it could be through observations, it can be through an information booth where we sort of just have a conversation. All of these things help us understand how the prototype and the solution works in reality, and help us set a direction for further development. This was sort of the end of the sprint method. And of course, I need to mention that this is a process that could be both long, it could be short, it could be agile also in terms of that you choose different phases that is mostly relevant for your case. So it's also something that's flexible in that sense. But I just want to make a invitation for you guys to see the sprint manual that we developed in the project, because for us to help the different project partners in this project Change Now, we wrote this sprint manual that consists of concrete exercises, how to guides on how to facilitate workshops, and also methods that I talked about today in very, very operational ways. So this is free for you to download on our webpage, Gate21's webpage, through this QR code. So feel free to go in there and download it and use it yourself, because it will dig much more into depth with the different elements that I just mentioned. So I'll just give you 1 second to download this QR code. Yes. So, questions. We are going to do it in that way that you write in the chat a question for me, and then we will take it. But maybe I can have Bent. I can see that you have a question about open city deposit systems. You're free to unmute yourself and speak out loud. And meanwhile, just write in the chat, and we will take it along the way. You are unmuted now, yeah?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
No, I don't really have a question, but I have a comment. I struggle in the reusable business with the fact that a lot of people believe deposit is the only way to go forward. The deposit systems from the open city systems with bottles or even with drinking cups. But for events, semi-open or closed, even for institutional catering, deposit is not accepted. And there are a lot of systems that actually can get the products back, logistics that get the products back without deposit. So my only comment is that you who work in these markets don't have such a high focus on deposit, have a high focus on return rates. So it wasn't really a question.
Thank you, Bent. It's a really important point. I think also this taps into the fact that we deal a lot with behavior. So user behavior is a central point also to deal with when we develop these reuse systems, and also think of the user, as I mentioned before, how they will react to different solutions. Then we have a question from Yanis. Thank you. Feel free to unmute and talk out loud as well. Yanis, you are welcome to ask the question out loud. All right, then I will just read it. So Yanis is asking, who will pay for the installation of vending machines? I have not seen a single model that would work without European support in the long term with vending machines. The amount of cups that these machines can serve is tiny, especially for concerts and arenas. Who will pay for the service of the cups? Even though I cannot answer that specific question of how this is actually going to be solved, what I can say is that this is actually also something that I will highly recommend for you to develop and use the sprint method to uncover. So this could be also your prototype of different business models, different pricing, different ways that this is economically sustainable. So in order for this theme of this webinar, you could actually use the sprint method to try different models and uncover different models of payment with the different actors to get more knowledge about how would this actually be economically viable in the end. Then Bent has a comment. Concerts and arenas don't need deposit. Analog, cheap return station can be used. Very low cost for return. So you actually have a solution that provides some of the answer, at least in one context for Yannis' question. Perfect. Any more questions out there? Maybe Johanna has a question. I quoted you at least one time. I know that you're there, so if you want to speak up, feel free.
Oh, thanks. Hi. I don't actually have a question, but I saw that there was one question from Soile that you didn't get. So perhaps you could check that out.
Where I can't see that.
Did you study deposit system and how much customers won't get as an incentive? It was below.
Oh yeah, Carl, yeah. Did you study deposit system and how much customers won't get as an incentive? Yes, in this project here in Gate 21, we have not been a part of developing the different pilots out there. That is the cities participating in this project. But I know for a fact that a lot of the cases also taps into this deposit system challenge. I would recommend for you to go into the website. We could also send out a link afterwards where we have the cases from the project is currently under development. But this tells a lot about the experiences from the different pilots out in the different countries, also in terms of the deposit systems and how they worked around it and what they tested. So we will soon launch a case catalog from all these different pilots who will highlight both their challenges, their solutions, and also their experiences with these new systems. As my colleague writes here, you can also meet the city partners in the upcoming webinars to answer such questions. That's a really good point. Thank you, Nicole. Yes. Any last questions? Otherwise, I will go to the last bit. All right. So as Nicole mentioned, we have 3 upcoming webinars. These webinars is a little different than this webinar, as I am going to have really good company with me on these and experts within the different areas. The upcoming webinars can be accessed through this QR code, and the first one is going to be about implementing reuse systems for food packaging in institutional catering. So focusing on that area of the project here and that area of reuse systems. And it's going to be on Thursday, the 16th of April from 9 to 10 CET. The next webinar will be on how to implement these systems for at events. So we talked a little bit about it today. Fritjof and his EU event system, but we're going to have cases and experts from the pilots also participating here and giving you all their knowledge and experiences. And that's going to be on Thursday, the 7th of May, also at 9 to 10 CET. And then the last one will be about how to implement these reuse systems in takeaway and home delivery. So we will also have experts from that in this webinar, where I'm going to interview these from their experience. And this is going to be held at Thursday, the 28th of May at 9 to 10 CET as well. We will also send this out afterwards so you can access this. So if you haven't already signed up, I really recommend you to do so, because then we're going to make a deep dive into these themes and get more concrete on what was actually done in these pilots and the project. So I will just leave that for 1 second more. And then there's nothing more for me to say than thank you so much for participating in this morning meeting. It was a pleasure having so many of you here. I hope you got some concrete methods that you can use, and remember to download the sprint manual to get started. Thank you so much here from Gate 21, and good luck out there.